What's up, friends? Francis Donald, Jordan Hirsch here with a little mini-sode from the Time and Space podcast. Stoked to be with you guys here today. I live in San Diego, so I say things like stoked, but I'm from Texas, but I spend a lot of time in New York, so you'll hear me say a lot of different things that refer to my regional dialect. We're going to kick this thing off. We got a couple things to talk about, but we want to do a fit check first. So, Jordan, tell us what you're wearing. Give us the why.
I got on the trunk. I got my Panda shirt, WWF Wildlife Federation. I like this shirt a lot. I wear it very often. I've had it for a very long time. As my mother would say, yeah, it's very comfortable, soft. As my mother would say, this shirt doesn't owe me any money. And and on my head, I'm representing Francis's high school, St. Mark's of Dallas, Texas. I've spent some great time in Dallas when Francis was living there and had an amazing time touring St. Mark's multiple times, and I got a hat out of it too. So I'm representing St. Mark's today.
I always
what do you
had
got
swag
going?
to give when people
You did.
came through.
Yeah, you're dripping. What do you got? What do you got going on today?
I got a hat. So my hat here is I'm gonna take it off for a second. This is a tie-dye camper hat. Tie-dye camper. So this was hand crafted and dyed in Ohio. The company is called Legends. You can buy these hats. They're like $35, which you may feel like is steep for a hat, but it's got a nice it's like a mid-depth hat, so it fits really well. Love the tie-dye, the versatility in it. It's a go-to. It's definitely a go-to out here in California, at least.
I mean, if you can't tell that Francis has experience working in retail the way he describes a hat, my goodness, that was good.
It's all about style and functionality.
The
mid-depth
really got me.
What's that?
The mid-depth really got me. That's what really, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want something that's too deep, then it comes down over your eyes, flattens out your ears. It's like, nobody got time for that.
You're right.
Right?
When you're right, you're right.
This is something special. This has actually never been seen before in public, only through group text, if you're my friends. This is a first edition Positively Masculine t-shirt. Positively Masculine it's a campaign that I am looking to launch likely in 2021. Doing some work on the back ends to produce a video and get some people enrolled in it. Over the course of the summer of 2020, racial unrest, leading up to an election, I felt that a lot of Black individuals were passing off responsibility on what was going on in this world. The masculine space it's one that I've been navigating for a while. I have an organization here in San Diego called Proactive that gathers men together around the community to gather in shared experience, and that's how we build relationships with one another. Positively Masculine is an offshoot of that. It's a campaign to promote the understanding of masculinity in men and women, really. Understanding how we understanding what it is to us, understanding how we relate to it, and using that understanding of how we relate to it to move forward in our lives in a positive way in how we interact with other people. There's conversations that we host with one another. Jordan is a basketball coach. We talk a lot about basketball and what's going on with his high school team. And I probably make him think more about masculinity and these topics more than he would like to. And so we are always bouncing ideas off each other. So I appreciate you helping me develop this and flush it out.
Well, that's what we do, right? And we've always described our friendship as collaboration, and everything else is really brotherhood. And that's how we've always operated, really, since the very beginning. Now closing in on, we've known each other since we're 17.
Yikes.
And we're now 35 and a half. Yeah, it's crazy. Time flies. It really does. But it really flies when you have the right people around you. And we are all proud of this initiative too. And you say that you make me think about these types of topics like positive masculinity more. But I need to, because that's something that I wouldn't come up with on my own. I wouldn't be able to think about it without somebody pushing me, and it's something that now is I think about often, and it's helped me put things into perspective. And I do want to keep talking about this. I think this is a good place for us to start today. And what I was wondering was, I always go back to the locker room. Right? I always think back to the locker room. And I say this to players all the time, basketball players, lacrosse players. I've talked to college teams about this. And I'm not trying to like plug myself. I'm just thinking out loud. The locker room is what you miss. So when you're done playing, in our last episode with Coach Silverlicht, we talked about Placid, and there's tournaments in Colorado and Hawaii, and you could play on a club team, and maybe you play pro. You are gonna miss your high school locker room if you don't play college, and you're gonna miss your college locker room if you don't end up playing pro. And you're gonna miss your college locker room the most, because you live with these people. You develop a bond that's just uncommon. So the idea that lacrosse is going to keep going as long as you want it to. My father-in-law plays in the Grand Masters twice a year, when things are normal and not shut down. You can play as long as you want. That doesn't ever have to die. But the locker room, eventually that dies. And that's the thing that you miss the most. It's that bond in the locker room and with your teammates, that intimate setting that you miss the most. And for
it
me,
dies every year.
100% right.
It gets recreated while you're there, but it's a new process.
You're 100% right, because every team has a birth and a death, and then is reborn. But it's always different, and you're right. And those dynamics change. But every locker room that I've been in, I've enjoyed the dynamics. I've enjoyed most of the dynamics. And I do think there are parts of the locker room that when you're always going to look back on it with a little bit of rose-colored lens. There are parts that maybe now, 20 years later, we look back and say, I hope that changed, because we're not in those college locker rooms anymore. I think that's partially why I want to keep sport, lacrosse, and basketball right now a part of my life, because I love that locker room feeling. I love walking into the locker room after a long day and knowing this is where I belong. This is where I need to be to impact my community.
There's consistency there, continuity there on a daily basis.
There is, and it's always revolving around something you're passionate about. And as much as I love teaching, there is not every subject and every day where I go in and I say, I cannot wait to teach the coordinate plane today. It doesn't happen like that. And I'm sorry to say it. And I love teaching. I love impacting. But, sport is something I can get, I could get it going every day for. What I want to dive into a little bit tonight is, do you think that when you started, and I remember when you started Broactive a couple years ago, I guess at this point, do you think that part of that was you were looking to recreate some of those locker room bonds, and that positive masculinity maybe was triggered from, like you said, some of the unrest going on in the world, but you could affect your locker room using positively masculine as your slogan?
Yeah, I think that there is a way to, when I started Broactive, that was a way to recreate the relationships, right? In a lot of different capacities. I think that it was trying to attach value to relationships, because when you think about it, the people that you're closest to are usually the people that you have the most in common when it comes to value. What you do on a daily basis, maybe what you wear, how you treat other people. And so when we think about we had so many friends in college that we played with. But there was a core group of guys that we stuck with beyond that time that we're in contact with on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. And I think the value, and one of those players didn't even graduate with us, didn't even stay at Nazareth. And he is still in that group because his value compared to our value was so strong and there was such alignment there. And so I think that Broactive is trying to find those individuals that I share value with at 32 years old, 33 years old, whatever I was. Positively Masculine that campaign is an opportunity to identify the core of those relationships. And like, why did we relate to each other so well? What was that core value? And we were guys, we did, traditionally masculine things. But at the same time, I think we were this. I think we were positively masculine. I think that was why we stuck together and why we continue to support each other. I just want to promote the conversation. I want us to talk about it. The fact that we're doing it right now is a success, right? The campaign has already started. Just because people aren't buying these shirts doesn't mean it's not started. And I think that when we're talking about the bigger scheme, the grander scheme of what's going on in our world today, there's a lot of instances where masculinity is being manifested in different ways in a negative sense. But I don't want to come down. I don't want to wag my finger at how people are doing things negatively. I want to celebrate and talk about what is positive. That way, I'm hoping to embrace anybody who is seeing this topic and who maybe doesn't buy into it right away, but like wants to enter into it. I want to make it welcoming. I want to make it inclusive. I want to make it a space for guys to dip their toe in, for women to dip their toe in and understand their responsibility to masculinity.
It's really an amazing approach. It's something that I think can relate to lacrosse. It's something that I think can be a part of the lacrosse locker room.
It's team chemistry, right? I mean, if you walk into a locker room where guys are, in an unhealthy amount of competition, or they are not, think about our Nazareth team. The one thing that was very present with us, and because Coach talked about it, was love. There was love in our locker room. And I write that down so we can talk to him about it next week, because we loved each other, and we told each other we loved each other because our coach used the word and he gave us permission. Right. He said, we're going to love each other. You guys should love each other. He made it almost an expectation. And that sort of leadership, when you are a leader of young men, and he may not even know that he was giving us that permission, but to give us that and to make it to normalize it, to make it an expectation, was so huge, because we always knew in the back of our minds, if we weren't feeling love in our locker room, then we knew something was wrong. We knew something was up and something needed to be addressed. And that is an incredibly important moment or message. And if you're listening to this and you are a leader of young people, we're talking about men, but young people, understand that you provide the vocabulary and the framework for those young people to grow within their lives. And if they enter into your space and you are not giving them a platform to learn and grow, then you're doing them a disservice. And we have to peel back our expectations of winning. We have to peel back our expectations of excellence, and understand that at the core of it, if we're talking about college lacrosse, this is a 4-year experience where each player should be able to take something away that is going to make their lives better. And it's hard because there's so many other external factors, but you are a community builder as a coach. You are an experience creator, and you have to assume that role. You can't just assume that the kids are going to build themselves up. And I think a lot of coaches think that that is the case, that the kids are going to drive the locker room.
You're 100% right. And I heard now I think it was Coach Tiffany at UVA said the other day that he hates when his coaches on his staff blame kids for stuff. It's such an interesting thing to say, and he is a very interesting guy, and he thinks very introspectively, I think. And he was saying, how could you expect them to do this without you making them do it? How could you expect that? You know, and I thought it was so interesting, and to be very clear too, it is very in vogue right now to throw the word love around in sports. It was not when we were in school. That was not something, that was not something that was thrown around as much as it is now. It is super encouraged, I think, at all levels to love each other as a team. I don't know that was true 15, 20 years ago. And it was there in our locker room at that time. And to also be clear, we talked last week about failing forward. We were doing that every day, especially as younger players. And and don't, let's not get this twisted either. Like, sometimes it was tough love. It wasn't always just, give me a hug. It was sometimes like we had to get our mindset changed, for lack of a better term. And as you know, we have a very good relationship with our coach. I think more uncommon than a lot of other people on any team. I talk to coach at the very least once a month, at the very least, sometimes more. And we have a text group with our coach from 20. I mean, that's not common, I don't think. Maybe it is, but I haven't heard it much. And we got it just as much as anybody else. That was not, it wasn't like he just liked us. He set an expectation, and when we didn't meet it, he made us. I work well with that. You worked well with that. I don't know that everybody does, but it certainly worked for us. And the guys we played with, I think, for the most part. Maybe not everyone, but for the most part.
It worked because it wasn't always the same thing. He wasn't always getting on us about screwing up in practice, right? He would get on us about loving the process. And when I say get on us, I mean, he would have these intense moments where he would explain why. He would explain the why behind, why do we tuck in our shirts? Why do we lift? Why do we show up on time? Why is it important to take care of your academic life? It was a well-rounded message. And that's why if you're a young coach out there and you don't understand why kids don't like you because you are screaming at them on the field to make them better, it's like, what else are you saying to them off the field? When are you putting their arm around them off the field? You can't just say the same thing to somebody all the time and expect them to understand the full perspective of why you say it to them, right? And I think what I feel from Coach is that he was being positively masculine in a way by giving us the full spectrum of love that we needed, the tough and the soft, and giving us the why behind it as well. And some coaches don't have the vocabulary to present the why to their players. And that's important.
And he also trusted us too, right? And that's a big thing, I think, with being positively masculine. That word trust comes into play, and especially in sport. I think the teams that I've been a part of, whether it be coaching or playing, that are most successful, they have love and they have trust. And they trust each other, they trust their coaches, they trust the process that's being presented. And when those dynamics are not in place, when things are difficult in a game situation or there's some adversity, it shows 10 times more because they don't have that foundation, right? And we've almost turned this into a Coach Randall episode before we get him on. But
Let's slow down.
Let's pump the brakes here, all right? Let's get him on the podcast first.
All right, gentlemen, a little fun to close the show. So we're
gonna have
a fun topic this week, maybe a little nostalgia for some of you. Cereal. So I have a couple fun cereals on this list.
Go.
I know you're a fan, Francis, and you as well, Jordy. So let's get right into it. So number 1, Frosted Flakes, Captain Crunch, Fruit Loops, Honey Nut Cheerios,
Yes,
Lucky
simple.
Charms, Frosted Mini Wheats, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Honey Bunches of Oats, and Apple Jacks. All right. Francis, you started last week. Let's start with Jordan this week.
Are we doing the snake thing again?
Oh, yeah.
The segment's
Come
called
on, it's not
Snake in
rocket
the Draft.
science. You got this.
We gotta do
All right,
it.
it'll go Jordan, Francis, myself twice. Back to Francis.
Okay.
I'm going right off the bat, Captain Crunch. No doubt about it, Captain Crunch.
A lot of sugar on this list. That might be number 1, though. That's a good one off the board, though. Francis, up to you.
This is tough. I want you to know how tough it is.
It's tough.
It's so tough. I'm going Frosted Flakes. I'm taking Frosted Flakes off
Can't
the board.
beat it.
I know what my
Can't
next
beat
pick
it.
is. Please don't take it.
Listen, this is pretty. I get back to back, and these are both pretty fire. But I'm gonna go Cinnamon Toast Crunch 1, incredible.
You can have it.
And I'm also gonna go. I can't have sugar, just straight sugar every morning. I'm gonna go Honey Nut Cheerios. I feel like those are classic. Yeah, really good, and a little less of that overwhelming sugar, but both really, really fire. In my opinion.
That's what I wanted.
That was a staple in our dorm.
It's good stuff.
So good.
Staple in every college dorm. I feel
I'm
like.
also
So
glad
good.
that you left Apple Jacks on the board because Apple Jacks is one of those, when you get the continental breakfast, it's rarely there, but when it is, it's always my go-to. I'm going Apple Jacks.
Nice. There you go.
Give me my apples, Jack.
All right, Jordan. So we have Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms, Frosted Mini Wheats, and Honey Bunches of Oats.
Okay. I have 2. Okay, so this is easy for me, but it's personal preference. Honey Bunches of Oats was clearly left on there for whoever went last. Why? No one's choosing that.
I actually enjoy Honey Bunches of Oats. They stay crunchy for a while.
They're good.
Well, you can have
Don't
them.
pick them.
This is easy for me. I'm going Lucky Charms. And they have marshmallows in them. And Fruit Loops. Easy. Toucan Sam.
Fruit Loops are dope.
I was not a big drink the Fruit Loop milk. I was not a fan of that. I feel like cereal's big too when you
I'm
when
not
you get the
suggesting
milk,
that. I'm not suggesting that.
All right. That's good to clarify. We have that on record. All you, Francis.
I'm really bad at writing these down. What's left on the board?
Mini Wheats and Honey Bunches of Oats.
I'm going Honey Bunches of Oats. I'm not going to leave it out there. You can take your mini
Yeah, it's a
wheats
good
and
choice.
shove it.
That's honestly-
Mini Wheats.
Honey Bunches of Oats are extremely underrated, Jordan. I can't believe you're not a fan.
Agreed.
Mini Wheats will destroy the roof of your mouth. It's like
I will mix Apple Jacks in Honey Bunches of Oats and Frosted Flakes in the same bowl. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
that. This is also the same kid who made a habit of, and this is, I think, more acceptable than whatever you just said, those 3 things in one bowl. Doing the soda fountain, every single thing, including iced tea.
It's called a suicide. Maybe not an appropriate name at this point, but that's what we called it.
Yeah, and by we,
but it was the opposite.
Yeah. This is This is going off the rails a little bit. Once again, though, I do feel that I won this draft.
How?
I do. I think the Knicks won their draft tonight, selecting Obi Toppin from Ossining High School. And I think I won the serial draft. We'll let the people decide.